Victoria Cann, or as some people say, Kane?
Or Con.
Con.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Me too.
This is the first episode where I am meeting the person I'm talking to for the first time when we're recording.
Well, you're really lucky.
So I have never met you before until 15 minutes ago when you came here. First of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for making the trip up here. I'm so curious. You are a friend of Kirby's who has been on the podcast. And I reached out to a couple people being like, hey, do you know folks who would be interested in this type of conversation and or people who have things to share with the world that should be given the opportunity? And Kirby put your name down first. And so here you are. Why did you say yes to doing this, though?
That's a great question, considering I have no idea because this is very out of character for me. But I just think that the Lord has done so much in my life, especially over, the last year and the last 4 years being in Austin, that it's not about me. I'm not here to talk about my life and what I've done, but essentially what he's done in and through me. And I have a lot of friends like Kirby, who are really encouraging and we just love to talk about Jesus and what he's done. And if this, hits home for one person, like it's worth it to me. I'm never going to shy away from talking about my faith, and I'm never going to shy away of saying like where God brought me and like what he's brought me through, because there's a large chance I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for my faith. Right. And so to me, it's worth it to just say like, God is so good and he's always going to be good. And I know he's done so many incredible things already. And I have, God willing, so many more years to live. Right. And I think every chance I get to talk about that, I'm going to take.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have learned that everyone has something to share. And one of the reasons why I love this kind of format and doing things like this is that it gives people the opportunity and it creates an environment where they are meant to share. And for a lot of people, they're uncomfortable. Most people who sit down, they're like, oh, the lights, the camera, the microphones, like this feels like a really significant thing because of the circumstance. Yeah. But in reality, my heart for all of these episodes is God is doing real things in people's lives. And it's through sharing those things that we all get to experience more of him. And when we get past being affected by other people's blessings and instead being encouraged by them, and or the alternative, seeing someone suffer and persevering through that because of their relationship with Jesus, that brings life.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited that you are willing to share and to kind of go into what God's done. Are you someone that likes to talk about your feelings in general and your kind of deeper philosophical or theological ideas, or are you not someone that necessarily gets into that naturally?
It depends on the circumstance and the people. I love to have those conversations, but also it doesn't always come up. Like, I have friends that sometimes like that's what we'll talk about, right? Yeah. Like we'll be like, let's hang out Friday. And then it's just like, everything the Lord's doing and, how we got from where we were. Like one of my best friends grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and like I love learning about how she came to her faith now because I don't have that experience. I grew up in the church, right? And that was one thing that I've talked a lot about to my friends, especially here in Austin, because a lot of them didn't have faith growing up, right? They didn't grow up in a home where they went to church every Sunday and Bible study and vacation Bible school growing up. And I've had this conversation a few times. It was like, well, I don't feel like I have a testimony, right? Because I've known Jesus my whole life. And to me, I never really had that like come to Jesus meeting because it's always been a part of who I am. And I've had two of my really, really close friends sit me down and say, Victoria, that is your testimony. Yeah. Like I have seen the way that you live your life, and like, it's so cool to see everything that you've been through and you still have your faith, right? Rather than like having this big, oh my gosh, I changed my whole life around for Jesus. That's been my whole life. And that changed my perspective entirely. And so when Kirby offered this as an option, I was like, yeah, because maybe other people feel the way that I do, right? Like, I never thought about it that way, because to me, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. When you meet somebody and they were addicted to drugs and they came to Jesus and, he broke that addiction, or whatever the story is. But to know that other people find what I've been through powerful just really changed my perspective. And I feel like the Lord is allowing me to accept that. And like, I'm actually standing on like, wow, like that is so cool that I didn't have to go through those things. And he called me to the place that I am now because he had a plan for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And like, looking back, I have so many of those wait, what God moments, especially since being in Austin. I feel like that's been like the really transformational part of my life.
I think that is so true for so many people, especially in the Bible Belt, right? Where we grow up, we go to church. It's kind of always been a part of our story, even if it's just cultural or just kind of, we have customs that we do. And we look at, videos like I Am Second, where you hear the transformation. And there is a tendency to say, wow, that's such a powerful story. Therefore, it's more effective for the gospel. When the reality is that person spent so much more time apart from Jesus. And it was this disparity between where they were and where they are now that we look at as profound and inspiring, but it's actually really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And like, what I'm going to be praying for my daughter or my son is that they would have the most boring testimony, because I don't ever want them to know what life is like apart from Jesus.
Yeah.
And then the other side that I've always felt is, in a lot of ways, I think sometimes it can take greater faith to have never known sin and choose righteousness anyway. Where if you go down the road of self-gratification, pursuing the things of your heart, fulfilling the sinful desires of your flesh, and then you experience the consequences of that, and then you're presented with Jesus, it can feel a little bit more obvious and a little bit more like, I get it. And I don't want to use the word easier, because that's not a fair word to use. But sometimes when you've experienced the pain of your sin, you kind of are like, oh, I'm not going to go back there because I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's basically saying, you know what, I don't know. Like, I desire to do these things that are not good for me.
Right.
Like, I have, like, in my relationship, we're not married. I have these desires. Oh, at work, like, I have the ability to kind of do something that's not ethical to take a step up and to make more money. Like, I have opportunities for sin. And even though I want to, I'm going to choose not to, because I trust that what Jesus has is better for me.
Yeah.
And to me, I think about when Jesus talks about, like, he's talking to people and he's saying, you believe because you have seen the miracles. Greater and blessed are those who believe even though they have not seen. And so I actually look at testimonies like what you're sharing as greater in a lot of ways, to say, oh, you never chose to fully pursue your own flesh with abandon, and instead you chose to trust that Jesus is going to be a part of your life regardless, even if that meant missing out on things. To me, that's sometimes a greater sign of faith. But it's really hard to feel that way because it's not inspiring. It's not emotional. It's not as relatable. And it's boring.
It can be.
Right.
Like, people, like, I think that's where it gets hard, because coming from where I'm, like, what I know, to me, it is boring because that's the life I've lived. But to somebody who has lived, outside of the will of God and doing whatever they wanted, it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I had had that. And to me, I never looked at it like that. And it was just like, oh my gosh, because they know the hard, right? They know the hurt. They know, there's so much that could have been saved had they not followed that. But unfortunately, a lot of people who come to Jesus later in life, they either have never heard of him, right? Or they just brush it off. Like truly what these people say about that God can be true, right? And like, thank God I have, Jesus loving parents and family and friends, because a lot of times when I was like, I mean, yeah, I know Jesus, right? But like nothing major has ever happened in my life for me to really feel like, oh my gosh, I need him. I was able to stand on the faith of the people who were going through those things, right? And now it's been flipped. And I have been that person where I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of bed? Okay, well, the only thing I know is that God is real and Jesus loves me and he put me here for a purpose, and I have to get out of bed because he's going to do something with that, right? He always takes what was meant for bad and turns it for good. And I have had to stand on the faith of my friends on the days where I felt like I didn't have any faith. And to me, that's like, oh my gosh, how do people live without it? I had that conversation with my mom so many times over the last year. Just like, what do people do when they go through tragedy and don't have the Lord? How do you wake up every day? How do you get out of bed? Because I had him and it was so hard. I didn't know what was going to come next. I didn't know if I was going to have a breakdown. I didn't know if I was going to feel numb. Like the stages of grief are so vast and it never ends. And it comes in waves, right? So I'll be good for 6 weeks, 5 months, and then it hits and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm back here again. And then I'm like, oh, but the Lord pulled me through it last time, and I know he's going to pull me through it again. And he gave me the friends, right? He gave me the family to, when I can't believe, they believe for me.
That's good.
And it's not that I've ever lost my faith. It's just sometimes the faith isn't enough. I don't have enough. It's not my strength, right? It's the Lord. And that's why community is so important. And the people that you surround yourself with. I never really realized that until I moved to Austin. And like, where I come from, everybody's married young. They have kids young. It was like, I was the only one of my friends didn't get married or didn't have kids. And it was so hard because I love them, right? But we were in such different places in our lives. And when I moved to Austin, I was like, all right, this is it. God, I'm ready for my husband. Like, let's do it. So I got to Austin 3 years later than I planned, right? And that's like my first like, wait, what, God moment was I had quit my job during COVID. I really struggled with depression and anxiety during that time. My grandfather was diagnosed with cancer for the 3rd time. And it just so happened that I was able to be one of his caretakers the last month of his life because I had quit my job. So like looking back, it's like, wow, God, you gave me that time, that I wouldn't have had with him. And then following that, I was able to move to Baltimore for a month and nanny for one of my cousins. And like, that was so special. I got to live with her brother. So I got to live with one of my cousins and his wife. And then I got to help my cousin and her kids. And I have another cousin who lived in Baltimore. So it was just like all of this time with my family after losing our grandfather that I would have never gotten had I been working. And then the job I currently have was a job I applied for during COVID. And they were like, we passed, we're going to give it to somebody else who had already been in Texas. And I was so angry. I was like, why am I still here, God? There's nothing here for me. Like, I love my family, but none of my friends live here. You know, I went to college out of state, so I didn't have a community at home really outside of my family. And I got to Austin and I looked back and it was like, that is the first time that I felt like I could see God's hand going, okay, you stay here, and then I'm going to move this piece, and then you're going to walk around it. Yeah. And then I'm going to move this, and then you're going to go this way, and then this way. And I was like, okay, I get it. And then I moved to Austin and I was like, all right, husband time. There are young people here. I'm going to get plugged into a church. I'm going to get everything I wanted, right?
Oh yeah. That's
God
how it works.
said, no. Yeah. He said, you're going to sit in a season of singleness. And I was like, are you serious? I've been single for like the last 7 years. What are we doing? And I said, okay. And for the first time in my life, I had an entire group of friends who were about my age, you know, some a little younger, some a little older, all of them single, Jesus loving women.
Love that.
And I was like, wow,
come on.
I have people who understand what it's like, what I'm going through in my life, right? Because we all had friends who were getting married and having kids. And I love that. I love that for my friends. That was one thing I had to learn, was like holding joy in one hand for my friends and also holding disappointment and grief for what I thought, you know, I deserved or what I wanted in that moment of time. And so it's really cool to be able to like sit in community with these women who understood what it was like, who also followed Jesus, you know, and to be able to have those conversations of like, God, when is it our time? Like, come on, like I'm doing all of the things you're asking me to. I waited to move to Austin. I waited, you know, and now I'm waiting even longer. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. I was literally having a conversation with a good friend of mine 2 days ago, and she was expressing a similar kind of frustration of like, she feels like whenever she shares with friends or people, the difficulty and or the disappointment with her relationship status not being where she would like it to be, that the immediate Christian feedback is kind of, sounds like this might be an idol for you. And that is so tricky and nuanced, because I do believe that within the contemporary Christian world, we have, whether it's intentional or not, put marriage as the pinnacle of success when it comes to doing life in the church.
Absolutely.
Where being married and having kids is kind of the end goal, and we're all just trying to get there. And so that has created this desire for all of us, not just kind of internally, like we all want to, you know, we want intimacy, we want connection, but also we want to be successful and we want to do what everyone else is doing. And so when we are, so I think in that way we have created marriage as an idol culturally and socially. However, marriage is clearly something that God has said is good. It's one of the ways that we do effective ministry. Marriage is the analogy that he uses for his relationship to all of humanity. Yeah. And so we know it's good. And so for a lot of people who have this desire to be married, it's not necessarily this idol of, I have to have it and I worship it above Jesus. It's, I have a deep longing for something that I think is good, that I think will allow me to find joy and meaning and be effective in my ministry. And it's not being met. If that desire is not being met. And I feel real hurt from that. I feel real disappointment. And I think that's really real. And yet in our culture, we tend to identify frustration with not getting what we want as a reflection of idol worship by default. Yeah. And while it can often be true, it's not always true. Yeah. And so I do think it's really tough to navigate conversations with people, especially if they are married and you're not, where you want to share, hey, this is something that like I'm frustrated with. And I'm not questioning whether or not God's good. I'm simply bringing to him as my father the frustration and hurt in my heart for something that I believe is good and that I want to honor him with. And that's a very different conversation. But it's so challenging because it's like we're not in control, and it is what it is.
And that's a hard conversation too, just in general of like, you know, they say, oh, girls grow up, you know, dreaming of their wedding. And I've had this conversation with my sister, Christina, is like, I've never dreamed of a wedding. I've dreamed of being a wife and a mom. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I was raised by a mom who stayed at home until I went to college. I mean, she helped my dad out. She was a substitute teacher here and there. But I mean, I was raised by a stay-at-home mom, and like, that is what I want for my life, right? And I've had that conversation so many of times of like, I want to be married and I want to have a husband that I can serve alongside, and I want to help grow the kingdom, and I want to have kids. Like I want to raise kids who love Jesus and then can go out and tell their friends that. Like I want so badly to have kids that have a better life than what I had, right? Who understand like from a young age, like, oh, Jesus is it. Like I want to tell, and I wish the confidence and the courage that I have now about my faith, I would have had more so growing up. I went to youth group and those were all of my friends, right? But like, that was it. I don't feel like I ever really stepped out of that. Like I went to college, I was raised Catholic. I had 2 uncles who were pastors in the Assembly of God church. So I was raised, you know, between the two, and I went to college and I was determined, like, I'm not going to be Catholic anymore. And then the Lord was like, haha. And like all of my friends were from the Catholic campus ministry my freshman year. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. Like it didn't matter what religion, it mattered that they were following him. Yeah. Right. Like it mattered that they knew who God was and what he was doing. And we had this amazing Polish priest, and like, it was just, he was like, watch what I can do. Yeah. Right. And I was like, okay, all right. You know, like God likes to show off when you let him. And so like, I learned through that of like, okay, I have so many friends from college and I've been in so many weddings. I have friends who are raising their kids in faith, and I have friends who don't believe. And now I'm like, I love you and you live your life how you want, but I'm going to tell you about Jesus. And I've never had any friends say, Victoria, that is too much. It's just like, that's how you live your life. And I love that for you and it's working for you and that's great. But like, that's just not my belief. And I think it's so important to still have those relationships. I was trying to think the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, do I have any friends who aren't Christians? And then I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I do. But I don't like choose my friends by what they believe, right? I think it's so important to have different perspectives. And sit down and have those conversations, right? Because there might be something that happened in their life that I don't know, you know, that causes them to feel the way that they do. Obviously, I pray for my friends and I want them to all know Jesus, all in his timing. And I'm not a savior. I can't save anyone. I can tell them about my life and what the Lord has done and what I've seen him do in other people's lives. But ultimately, it's their decision. And that was something that was really difficult for me to come to terms with, right? Because like, I just want all of my friends to experience life the way that I do. Like when you're in the lowest of the depths and you're like, where do I go from here? Like I always hold on to the verse, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Joy isn't happiness. Right? Like I've experienced the joy of the Lord in the darkest of days because it's not from me. It's from him. And to me, I'm like, how do you live your life not knowing that? And then like when you're on the highest mountains, who do you give that praise to? Yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I didn't do it. Like, and don't get me wrong, I work hard, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I'm not like, way to go, Victoria. You did so great. Like, that's awesome. Like, yeah, it's important that we put in the work. God's not just going to hand it over to you. Right. But also, like, I don't want that praise, like, I don't like the spotlight on me. It makes me uncomfortable. Like, I am a stand in the corner, do everything behind the scenes, like, tell no one, tell nothing. Like, that's it. And when it comes to those moments, I'm like, God's got me because I don't have me.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, when it comes to marriage, it's like, okay, you know better than I do. And I'm going to trust that you know better than I do because you've proven it to me time and time again. And you're going to prove it to me again. Yeah. But I don't think that he's withholding anything, right? I don't think he's saying, oh, you're not good enough. Like this, you're not right. It's not time, right? He's an on-time God. I don't always love his timing, but it's always right, and that's a lesson I still continue to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially as an adult. Like, I think, like, I look at my nieces and my nephew and I'm like, man, to be a kid again and to just like have that faith without worry, like, that's what I want as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Is to just like be able to sit there and be like, all right, God, it's like no more worries. Yeah. My hands are open. You give me what you want. You take away what you want, and I'm going to be content.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to, it's so annoying when you know something is true and you don't feel it at all. Like, that's what's so challenging about walking with Jesus, is that I am 110% intellectually convinced that he's real, that God exists, that Jesus was a human that walked on the earth, historically, like, verifiable.
Yeah.
That he was crucified on a cross and was seen by more than 500 people as a resurrected figure.
Yeah.
That's all really good evidence. And the reality is that the Bible is by far the most transformational book that's ever existed in all of the world. It's the bestseller of any book by a landslide every year, no matter what.
Yeah.
It's changed the most lives. It's the foundation for all morality that we really know. It's incredibly intuitive because it's aligned with what we just feel because we're made in God's image. All of this intellectual truth is there. And yet I wake up complaining. I wake up dissatisfied with how things are going. And I just finished reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, an incredible book. I commend it to anyone. But he was talking about like where God is in relationship to time. Basically the example he was using was, how can people from all around the world be praying, like hundreds of millions of people praying to God, and he can hear all of them individually. And it's just, that's based on our idea of what time is and where he is at. Like my future is not like something he knows about. It's somewhere he is right now.
Yeah.
Like me with my child someday in the future, God is there in this moment. He's there.
Yeah.
That's an insane thing to think about. But the thesis for me is the idea that God's looking at me and he's saying, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't be praying for that right now.
Right.
You wouldn't be asking for that right now. And so there's this incredibly freeing and like relieving truth of, if I don't have it, I shouldn't have it right now. Like there's some reason why the things that I desire are not given to me, because I know that everything that God does is good. And so if there are things that I'm asking for that I don't have, there's a reason. And trusting that that's good is the hardest part, because it's not intuitive. It's not emotionally intuitive to be like, oh, I woke up today and still no matches on Hinge, right? Like I woke up today and still no one's texting me back.
Yeah.
And being like, I guess that's the best thing for me today.
Right?
Like, yay.
Awesome.
It doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's based on a incorrect interpretation of what God's goodness means for us in our lives. And so I totally relate to that. I'm curious, when you talk to your friends who say, it's great for you, so glad that you have your thing, and awesome, you do you. What do you, maybe they've shared this with you, maybe they haven't, but what do you think is the reason why they are like, that's great for you, but that's not something that's for me?
I think it's the whole idea of like, what do I need a God for? Right? I have a good family. I grew up in a good place, a loving home. I have a husband who loves me. I have a great job. What's the need? Like, what is he going to fulfill that I don't already have? Which is like, obviously such a worldly way of looking at things, right? And I'm just like, if you only knew, if you think what you have now is great, if you only knew how much greater it would be if you welcome the Lord into those parts of your life, that like, it would just, it's so hard for me to understand, right? Because I've never been there.
Yeah.
And, I have friends, came to faith later in life, and they're just like, I don't know how I lived so long without it. And I'm like, I'm so glad that you didn't have to live any longer without it. And like, I'm so glad that you like followed the calling of the Lord. Like, somebody planted a seed somewhere at some point in time, and other people continued to water it, that you now have the opportunity to sit in his presence and love him and let him love you the way that he wants to, and the way that you were created to be loved, And I just like, it's so hard, because I'm like, I guess like things of the world can be great and good. And that's, where the enemy wants you to be, is comfortable. And he doesn't care what's going on, as long as your eyes are completely shifted from the Lord, right? He doesn't care if you're asking him for anything, as long as you're not focused on what the Lord wants for you, he has you. Distraction is his number one tool. And as long as it's working, it's never going to go away. We like to say that Satan is old and rusty and crusty, and he has no new tools, right? He just, same playbook. He's like, oh, that one's not working. To the next page. Oh, we tried all these again. Well, let's go back to the beginning. And when things aren't bad in your life, what do you need a God for? What is he going to do? And I'm like, what isn't he going to do? And until they had that encounter, there's no convincing, right? I don't want to sit there and argue with you and tell you what you should and shouldn't believe. I hope that one day they'll be able to look at my life and say, yeah, that I've watched you in that your whole life, and now I want it. Like, I want the Lord to use my life as a testimony, not necessarily just my words. I want the people who I've known, now 15 years, to one day say, you know what, you were right. He's so much better than whatever I thought a God would be, And that's the crazy thing, is it's not like they're going and worshiping 17 other gods. It's they have none.
Yeah, I have learned, and it's been taught to me, that salvation is not an intellectual pursuit. It's not something that you can be convinced of intellectually into surrender. Because the reality of the good news of Jesus is, I have to recognize, in order for there to be good news, there has to be bad news. Right? And so the struggle I have with current Christianity in a lot of ways is that we are really focused on the good news, and we don't really talk about the bad news, except for it's only good news because of the bad news. The bad news being that I'm sinful. I deserve to be eternally separated from Jesus because of my own choices, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, that's the capital T true reality for my life and everyone's life.
Yeah.
So the reason it's called the good news is because despite that being true, Jesus loves me so much that he said, you know what? Even though I'm going to require payment for your sin, I'm also going to be the one to pay it. And it's only through that recognition that I can come to understand why Jesus is God and why that relationship is ultimate. And then I can start to understand why there's all these rules and why there's all these things I'm supposed to do. And there's this call on my life. And what happens, I think, is people who don't know the Lord look at all the rules and all the expectations and all the things you have to do to like be a good Christian and say, that looks exhausting. That looks boring. That looks like not fun. I'm not into that. It's like, well, yeah, if you think you're a good person that like you can just do whatever you want, it's all going to go well for you. Of course, that's what that looks like.
Right.
The premise that you don't understand is these people that say they love Jesus and they're following him, it's from an overflow of gratitude and love for someone who paid their price for their sin, that they can't help but do these things.
Yeah.
Not because they have to, but because they love someone so much, it's out of a joy for that person that they obey, and they do that. And so it's so challenging to engage with people and say, well, here's why Jesus is better than what you're doing. Because he is. He just is. And the evidence is out. The data is there. It's clear. You look at people, you look at the satisfaction and the happiness of people who are engaged in Christian like life in a genuine way and people who aren't. And it's not even close.
Yeah.
Same thing with marriages. It's like, it's just not even close. But aside from that, even without taking any of that into consideration, it's like, yeah, I don't know how to tell you that the things that you're pursuing have an expiration date, but also I know you know that. The difficulty is that the things that are making you happy right now, the reason you don't need God, those are things that you aren't in control of. Your family might not always be good. Your job might not always be good.
Yeah.
Your health definitely won't always be good. And so if you see Jesus or you see Christianity or religion as a need to support you when times are bad, that is still the perspective of this is here to serve me. And that's just not like, read it and you'll be like, oh, this ain't about me, dude.
Right.
Like, this isn't about me at all. But that's the greatest news of all time, because most anxiety comes from the burden of having to do it all yourself and being unable to.
Yeah.
And so for the truth of the gospel to be like, it's not about you, dude. You're not in control. And also you can't mess it up.
Right.
Because it's not about you.
Right.
That's like the most freeing thing of all time. And yet that's like the poison to the American culture.
Yeah.
Of like, wait, I'm not in control. It's not about me. I want, it's like, yeah, that's the disconnect.
Yeah. I think about it, and I don't remember who used this analogy, but you're like talking about all of the rules. And it's like, well, yeah, when you're an adult and you're with a child, your children, niece, nephew, whatever it is, right? You have rules for those children to keep them safe. You can't jump off the back of the couch. You're going to break your leg. You can't touch a hot stove. Your hand's going to get burned, right? All of those parameters are in place to keep you safe until you get to the point where you know it yourself. And that's exactly what this is, right? God saying, well, until you figure it out, I'm going to tell you what to do, because I put these things in place to keep you safe, right? There's a reason sex was created for marriage, because when you have it outside of marriage, you realize, oh no, there's a bond that shouldn't be there now. And how do you break that? What are you going to do? Because it was created, to honor the Lord, and people don't understand that. And when you experience it, you're like, oh, okay, all right, you were right. I got this. Like, I'm not going to do that again. Right. Just like a kid touching a hot stove. You're like, you cry for 15 minutes, you get a blister, and your parents are like, yeah, I told you, but you wanted to learn the hard way. You're not going to do it again. And I think it's so important to have a community of wisdom. So I think about in college, one of my best friends, Jo Beth, I love her. She's actually getting married in January, which is so wild because she had never really had a boyfriend. I went through a breakup from my high school boyfriend, leading into my freshman year of college. And I was so upset, heartbroken, all of this stuff. And I truly believe that the Lord gave me to her, not only as one of my God sisters, but to also allow that wisdom to infiltrate her life so she didn't have to walk through what I went through. Right. And I think that's so important. Like, I watched one of my best friends get married and walk through a divorce. And now I'm like, okay, God, I see why, when I wanted to marry this guy, you said, not right, and why I'm still waiting, because I don't want to go through that, and it might not say it in that book, right? But we can take those lessons from other people's lives so we don't have to walk through it, right? That's why it's written, because there's so many lessons in the Bible that we can take from that we don't have to do ourselves, right? We can learn from what other people did, what they went through. And you're like, okay, you already did it. I see how that turned out. I am not it'll be different for me kind of person. I'm like, okay, all right, I got it. Like, so yeah, it's
pride. It's exactly what it is. It's this belief that, oh, they didn't know what they were doing, but I'm going to get it right. And it's just insane that even us believers, who claim to trust in the truth of God's word and its inerrancy, like, we just think that it's going to be different. I think the example of sex is one of the greatest, like, on face value, it kind of seems like, what are you talking about? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not do it outside of marriage? You want to, you're both consenting, you both desire it.
Right.
And yet it makes all of the sense in the world. And I have seen it play out in my own life, in everyone that I know.
Yeah.
That as we choose to break God's commands for what sex is designed for, it just goes poorly. And I no longer need God's word to convince me of it. Just like, I know now that that's so obviously true.
Right.
And most things in scripture, like, there's a lot of things in here that are tough to wrestle with. There are a lot of things in here that the world hates and that they fundamentally and diametrically oppose. And I get it. And there are some things in here that I'm like, I don't really know why it says that.
Yeah.
And I would love for it to not say that. And yet, there's very few, if any, things in here that I'm like, it makes no sense to me, but I'm just going to accept it.
Right.
And I think most people think that's the Christian like philosophy, is like, you just ignore all your desires, just shut up and listen to what your God says, and then you'll get heaven.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think there's anything in here where I'm like, you know what? Even without this saying it, I can now look out in the world and be like, oh yeah, like, I get that makes sense. It makes sense. And like, to your point, it's like, at some point, children, when they grow up, they learn why the rules are the way that they are.
Right.
And they no longer need the rules because they know the truth. And you need rules before you know the truth. But then once you know the truth, the rule is no longer required. As in, it doesn't need to be written down. You don't need to be reminded, because you know that it is just true.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the part that's, like, for me, the biggest challenge from a apologetics and like a witness perspective. Because, as I'm in my young adult years, single believer in a culture that is more and more interested in having philosophical and theological conversations. And as podcasting is taken off and as these kind of thought leaders are gaining momentum in culture, the conversation around like, why is sacrifice better than selfishness? That's a really hard, intuitive conversation to have. But and yet it's just true.
Yeah.
It's just true. Why is giving better than taking? Why is selflessness better than selfishness? Why are those things like capital T truths that transcend how I feel?
Yeah.
And yet most people want to have like full intellectual understanding before they step into faith. And it's like, I don't think you understand. Like, understanding is downstream of obedience, not the other way around. It's not, hey, convince me why that's right, and then I will obey.
Yeah.
It's no. I need to submit to your authority. I will obey what you say. And in that obedience, I will come to understand why.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a very different response. But we live in a culture where it's like, I refuse to submit to anything. I am God. And while no one will ever say that phrase out loud, people are, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to say I'm God. Everything about how you live
says it.
Everything about how you argue about why things are the way that they are or why things should be the way that they should be is you saying, I am the moral authority. And therefore, if I don't agree with it, I won't believe in it. And the problem is that there's like so many things that are true regardless of how you feel.
Yeah.
Like, no matter if you like gravity or not, no matter if you accept it as a good thing.
Yeah.
Every part of your life revolves around the fact that you know it's true. And regardless of whether or not you feel like it's a good thing, you operate in obedience to it.
Yeah.
And it would be insane to say, you know what? I don't like it. Doesn't really align with what I think is right. I'm going to go try jumping off that bridge and just seeing if I can fly because I don't believe in it, then it's not true is an insane thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
But that's what people say. Well, I don't really agree with this, so therefore I'm not going to believe in it. How about you consider whether or not the thing itself is reliable and there's evidence for it? And then you can decide whether or not the prescriptions after the fact are valuable.
Yeah.
But you have to contend with whether or not it's true rather than, well, it's not true in my opinion, from my perspective, based on my experience. Therefore, it must not be capital T true. There's no capital T truth in the world that cares about your feelings.
Yeah.
I wish it did. Like, I would love for it to be like, well, I don't like that, therefore it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
That's just not how truth works.
Right.
And so these conversations in culture today are so fascinating and also frustrating because it's like we're having two separate conversations. You're arguing with me about symptoms about this, and I'm trying to talk about the foundation. Like, very different conversation.
Yeah. I don't know how people read the Bible and they're just like, And a lot of times they don't understand it because they don't understand the context, right? Like, you have to understand the historical context. You have to understand what came before, what's coming after to understand the whole picture. And like, don't believe there's a heaven, right? How can you believe there's not a hell? Like, the picture of giant gnashing teeth is so terrifying to me that like, I'm like, all right, if I die and there is no heaven, that's okay. But if you die and there is a heaven and hell and you don't believe, you're going to hell for eternity.
Yeah.
And Satan's going to have a blast, right? That's what he wants. He just wants more and more people to fill the gates of hell. That's terrifying to me. I don't want to spend eternity without the people that I love. I want everybody that I love to be in heaven.
Yeah.
Like, I just like, think about a worship night and I just like sit and I just feel the presence of the Lord. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do this for eternity. I can't wait to sit in his presence and sing with the angels and just be. with the new heaven and the new earth, and not have any care in the world. No sickness, no tears, no depression, no worries, no anxiety. It's like, why wouldn't you want to believe in that?
Yeah.
He loves you so much that he's going to give you these things. Like, what kind of God does that? Because every other God, it's all about them. You're sacrificing for them. And the Lord says, sacrifice, but in turn, I'm going to give you all of these things, all of the good and holy and beautiful things that I've created for you.
Yeah.
God didn't create earth just to be like, look, I have little people running around, Yeah. He wanted to share his goodness, and he wanted us to experience him, and it's just like, oh, that is so incredible.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I mean, I always struggle with like trying to use this logic because I don't really know if it's actually good, like persuasion, but it's like, if I'm wrong, I got nothing to lose. If you're wrong, there's a hell of a lot to lose.
Yeah.
And just on that premise alone. And so the argument would be, yeah, but if you're wrong, you missed out. Because Paul does say, if we're wrong, then we are to be pitied.
Yeah.
Because we should be going out and having all the sex, doing all the drugs and all these things. Like, you should be going and doing all of those things because there is no meaning, there is no truth, there is no morality. It just is. And yet, so the argument would be, well, if the problem is if you're wrong, you're going to have missed out. Well, first of all, I won't have missed out because I'll be dead and I'll have no capacity to even consider that. But also, I have chosen the prodigal journey many times in my life. I have chosen to say, I'm going to fulfill all the desires of my heart. And I have chosen surrender and submission to Jesus in what a life of following him looks like. And in every tangible, practical, possible way, obedience to Jesus has been infinitely more fruitful, more fun, but above all, more peaceful.
Absolutely.
It's not even close. So for me, even if this is all just good ethical teaching, this version of life transcends any version of life that the world could possibly sell me. So even if I'm wrong, now I know I'm not wrong.
Right.
I just know it because it's just true. It's just overwhelmingly true. And everyone who's experienced it knows it.
Right.
But that's not, compelling to people who don't believe. Even if we're both wrong, I know that my life has been significantly better. And I would argue, my life has been significantly better because you look at the people who have peace in the midst of hardship and you wonder how. How do you do it? You look at the people who are committed to their faith and you say, wow, if only I could be disciplined in something, I might be able to have more direction in my life. And the people who have everything and don't have Jesus are desperately clinging to those things because they know that if their identity and their satisfaction is connected to those things, that means when those things go, so does their identity and so does their comfort. And so it's like, just at base level, between the two, one is just so obviously better.
Yeah.
And that's not the gospel in so many words, but it's just kind of like an obvious intellectual like challenge for people. It's like, yeah, I mean, between the two, this feels like a safer bet. And also, once you take a step of faith, you'll be like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see. There's actually some truth to it.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you're saying I'm missing out, but on what? Tell me whose life has been significantly better for sleeping around, doing whatever drugs they want, getting drunk every night. Because I don't know a single person who is like, oh yeah, this is the best thing. They're stuck in a cycle of addiction and they're hating their lives and they continue to do it because they don't know what else to do.
Right.
Right. So like, yeah, tell me I'm missing out. I would love to be missing out, right? Like those things don't, even if this isn't true, it's not appealing to me.
Yeah.
Because like, what are you running from?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want those things? There was a reason that you started, and now you can't stop because you don't have self-control.
Yeah.
Right? Like it becomes an idol. That is your God.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why worship something that's ruining your life?
Yeah, it's right. It is intellectually obvious to me. It's like the fact that people don't need to know Jesus to know that when they make themselves the center of the world, their life is worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's evidence that God's real. Like that itself is evidence. The idea of a midlife crisis, do you know what that comes from? An existential need for doing something that matters. That's evidence. That's just like, it's so clear. It's so obvious that that's an example of, oh, you have a design and you're not in line with the design for your life.
Yeah.
And so you're feeling that tension. And just because you're intellectually unaware of why does not stop it from being true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so different if you were to just stop and be like, let me just take seriously for a second why I have this need to have a purpose, why I need to matter, why things are the way that they are.
Yeah.
And why when I seem to go for everything I want, people don't like me, things fall apart around me, and I'm generally sad and alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, maybe there's a reason. And it's really sad that people have to be broken, like truly broken, for them to come to that realization. But it's interesting. It's like when people are at their lowest, they always turn to God.
Mm-hmm.
Even in this kind of like, I don't know if you're real, but just in case.
Yeah.
It's like, that makes no sense. It just makes no sense, dude. There is nothing else that I don't believe in that all of a sudden I start to believe in when things go bad. It's just not, it's not real.
Yeah.
And yet that's kind of baseline for every human. And it's really, really fascinating. Okay, so I haven't gotten to one of these questions. I mean, you hit on some things that we've talked about, but I am curious, as a woman in today's world, I know you've shared a little bit about frustrations and struggle with dating and relationships and what that looks like. What do you feel like is the most challenging for women in the church today as it revolves around their pursuit of Jesus?
I think it goes back to marriage and what we were talking about. Unfortunately, I think a lot of churches look at singles and say, okay, well, you don't have a husband, you don't have kids, get plugged in, serve the church more because your time is less valuable in other places of your life. And to me, that's so frustrating. They'll never outright say, oh, singles are less than, but that's how they treat us. And I'm sure they treat the men that way too. But as a woman, I feel like they're like, oh, you're in your 30s. Oh, you should be married and have kids by now. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. But the Lord hasn't given me the okay. He hasn't said, here's the man that I've created for you, move forward. And I think also that it gets to a point, in the mid 30s that people kind of just give up on us, right? It's like, oh, well, we'll invest in the younger women because they still have time, right? And people truly get left behind. And it's so hurtful and so frustrating. I feel like I've seen friends walk through this of like, they're like, here's a singles ministry. And then they don't facilitate it properly, right? I would love to meet somebody in the church, but they don't pour into singles. It's like, oh, you should embrace this singleness season. Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and like complain about it, but I'm not also going to be like, oh my gosh, I love being single so much. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I want somebody to come and mentor me. I want to know that I am being the woman God has created me to be in order to be that wife when he gives me the man who's supposed to be my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I had more of that at home. I was part of I called it my old lady Bible study. My mom and her best friend and one of my aunts started it almost 20 years ago. And it was so incredible because it was women ranging from their mid 50s to mid 80s sitting down once a week doing a Bible study. And I learned so much from them, not just about faith, but raising kids and marriages. You know, some of them had been married 60 years. Some of them had been divorced. Some of them had been, widowed. And that was encouraging to me. And unfortunately here, I don't see that. And I feel like, yes, I am absolutely left behind because they don't see how, what do we do with you? It's like, okay, well, we tried, when you were younger, but it didn't take. So we're just going to toss you off to the side and we're going to focus on the younger people. And it's like, but hello, I'm still here. Like, am I invisible? I'd like to think that I still matter. And so I tried to take that, and the Lord called me to lead a Bible study. And I was like, absolutely not. I ignored that call for a year. And I was like, not a chance. I don't want to do that. That sounds real uncomfortable. And then I sat in it and I started to study, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being the person that I want somebody to be for me. God was like, hello, why didn't you listen? You asked for something and you have the chance to be that for somebody else.
Yeah.
Do it. And I was like, okay, and obviously it went way better than I could have ever imagined because it wasn't my plan. And I gave it to the Lord, and I was like, here, you give me the women that you want in my group. And I had such an incredible group. I did it for a year, and then I went through something tragic, and I just didn't have the capacity to handle it. But I am still with some of those women, and we're still walking through life, and they're all younger than me. And I'm like, wow, I don't know everything. Obviously, I'm not married. I don't have kids. The majority of them are in relationships, but I've been in relationships, right? I know what works and what doesn't. And I've lived a lot more life. And to be able to start that, what I wanted for somebody else was such a blessing. So I'm like, anytime one of my friends is like, I don't know, I'm like, just do it. If you feel like the Lord is calling you to do it, do it. It's so important that we're being the people for the younger women that we don't have right now.
Yeah.
And I hope one day I'm one of those ladies in my 80s who is still talking to the women in their 30s who don't have families. I want to be able to be that person that I don't currently have, where I feel like there is such a gap in the church between young single women compared to young single men. Because it's men build each other up and let's help the church, and that's great, and I love it because men are called to lead, right? But I don't feel like they prepare women to help the men lead, right? We're not supposed to be the leaders of our household, the men are, but we're supposed to be partners, right? And I want to be the best partner I can be. We're called to be a helper.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to know how to do that properly because I obviously haven't gotten it right yet, and there are women who have, and I want to learn from them. And I've asked, unfortunately, there are just a lot of churches here who don't focus on an older generation in the church. And a lot of the churches lack wisdom. And so they don't even see a need for it because they're so focused on getting people in the door.
Yeah.
But once they're in the door, that's where they stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I really appreciate you sharing that. This conversation just doesn't happen. we are accused of idolizing marriage in whenever we complain about not having it. And also the like, and yet the wisdom from all godly marriages is how you live your life as a single person is how you are training for marriage, right? There's no marriage training. It's you're training as you're single, and then you just start up. There are only marriage problems, right? And so it's like, okay, so how do I think about being a husband without being a husband? How do I think about being a father without being a father? And I think there are some helpful things of like, yeah, well, you should be discipling and leading other people. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's good. But then like, do I have male friends at all? Do I have female friends at all? Do I ask out my male friends or ask out my female friends? Dating's always like the topic that nobody wants to talk about. And it's like, oh, you're just complaining about dating. All these single people complaining about the dating scene. Like, and it's like, well, actually it's kind of so much more fundamental to like, how am I supposed to interact with, I only get to be best friends with one woman my whole life, but I'm going to have to be around women that aren't my best friend and my wife my whole life. How do I interact with them in a way that is honoring to my marriage now as a single person so that I'm good at it when I'm married? But how do I do that without being able to talk about how to do that?
Yeah.
And how am I supposed to engage in dating in a church without making it weird? I really had, so I asked out and dated a girl in my small group, and there was a lot of like initial chatter about the guys I was talking to about like, hey, I think I'm going to ask her out, because it was like, oh, that's going to be weird. And then when we broke up, it was, are you still going to that CG? Like, you still going to that community group?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's insane to me that dating vibes are so much more important to keep like status quo and keep everyone chill than like helping people learn how to date well and how to become good boyfriends and how to become good husbands. And I agree with you. It's like we get into the 30s and all of a sudden it's like there must be something wrong with you if you're not married by the time you're in your mid 30s. Like, why are you single? Like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, well, one, I'm broken and I'm a sinner and I've made poor choices.
Yeah.
Praise God, I made them outside of marriage instead of inside of marriage.
Right.
You know, I used to be so overwhelmed with frustration at God for, you know, being in my late 20s and not being married. And not frustration at God like you owe it, but more owe me, but more like I'm just mad that it hasn't happened because I'm incredible and I'm a catch, and why doesn't a godly woman want to marry me? and he was really clear with me when I serve as a part of a recovery ministry at my church. And I saw husband after husband come through that recovery ministry with a porn addiction, with the drug and alcohol addiction. And the number one symptom of these things was how it was ruining and hurting their marriage. And I just was like, praise God, I'm not married. Like Jesus, you are so graceful to me and merciful to me that you have allowed me to make efforts in my sexual brokenness and in my own addictions where I am not affecting my spouse in the same way that I would be if we were already married.
Right.
Where I am committing sin against her in that someday when I stand before her and promise forever, that's a promise to fighting the parts of me that I need to continue to keep at bay. And just my own experience is going to be painful. It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt.
Right.
But there's a difference between being actively in that and saying, hey, there's victory, and now it's something that I'm going to continue to keep away, but it's real. And so praise God that I'm not married now, because I would be in lots of marriage counseling and or divorced by now, depending on what would have happened. And so, yes, people who are in their 30s might have been, oh yeah, they've really struggled with things, and so it hasn't been right. Or maybe it's been like they've actually chosen to be obedient to Jesus and not marry someone based on the initial desire of the relationship, the compatibility, because as many people as I know that are married my age, many of them would not be married to that person if they met them today.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's really tough. And so there is sometimes I look at people who are not married in their 30s, and I'm like starting to be much more impressed with their diligence and saying, hey, I know what it means to say, for better or for worse, till death do us part.
Yeah.
I care about the meaning of those words. I care about the implication of those words. Meaning, if we get married and the next day you're in a tragic accident and you're paralyzed from the waist down, I'm still married to you forever.
Right.
Like, and most people in culture would be like, oh, you just got married, it's fine.
Yeah.
Move on. Go find someone that can, not be a burden. It's like, and then you didn't understand what we said at the altar.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we don't honor people's obedience, and instead we look at it as a problem, and it's extremely alienating, and it's hard. And so I do feel like that. Obviously, I don't understand what it's like to be a single woman, and as a single man in the church, I'm just more like, bro, like, just say yes to the 5'6" dude who asked you out that loves Jesus. Like, please, for the love of God. There are so many men that I know who would be incredible fathers and husbands, but they like video games and they're not 6 foot.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a deal breaker. And so obviously the grass is always greener, and as in, like, it's always the other people's problem and it's not ours. I know that men's standards are insane and women's probably equally so. But what is hard for me is that there are no conversations happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, do you feel like you're able to engage in these types of conversations with people and like be heard?
Not a chance. Like, there's nothing else to say. Like, it goes in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you know what? I think that the opinion of single people who are in their 30s is also less valued, which is kind of mind-blowing, right? Because, like, I sit with myself and my feelings and my thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have somebody else sitting on the other side of my couch that I can say, hey, like, let's talk about this. It's like me and God wrestling a lot. And he's given me a lot of wisdom not having another person, right? Because it's coming from him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, God, I don't get it, but like, help me figure it out. And we work through it. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, I wish I could share this with someone.
Yeah.
Right. And like, you share it with your friends, God gives you a revelation, but it just doesn't hit the same way. Like, you just have that desire to be like, oh my gosh, I want to tell my husband this so bad. And you're like, just kidding. I don't have a husband, like, it's like also a gut punch. Like, why, God? And then, like, yeah, it's just, it's so frustrating.
Yep.
Like, dating in the church is so hard. And I have no desire to date outside of the church, right? Like, I've been there, done that. And it doesn't work. Like, unequally yoked, like, not worth it. I would have, knowing now what I do, I would have rather just stay single. Obviously, the Lord has taught me a lot through that. But like, I see friends and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go on a date with this guy. I'm like, where does he go to church? Does he love Jesus? Like, that used to be like in my mid-20s when I was on dating apps, like, one of my first questions was, do you love Jesus? I don't care if you have religion. I care if you have relationship. right? Like you could go to church on Sunday and Wednesday night and live your life however you want outside of those days. Like I want somebody who's going to show up and show out. Like I don't want to have to ask you to pray before dinner. I don't want to have to ask you to get up and meet me at church on Sunday. I want you to say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow morning at church. Hey, there's a worship night at church happening this weekend. Like, let's go. Like, let's do dinner and then go to worship night together. Like, oh my gosh, that would be like the best date, right? Like, that's what I desire. And it's so hard to find somebody. Like, I think that would be a great date, but a guy probably wouldn't even think about that, right?
Don't ask me to speak on behalf of most men. I have learned that my opinion is not shared with most men on the whole. But no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, if you're looking for a spouse, like if you're looking for a spouse in church, the odds are good, but the goods are a little odd. Like the problem is that
was so cheesy.
The standard, I heard that today and I loved it. The standards of the world. I mean, you see the memes all the time where it's like the girl's like, they said find a boy at church, and then the boy's at church and it's like a bunch of weirdos. And it's like, yeah, I mean,
there are some of those.
I mean, like, yes, but that also points to like, what is the standard that you're using? Because what's really challenging for me is that in my experience, and I will say this is, I will try my best to not be generalizing.
Okay.
In my experience, the advice that I see women give men in relationships is not reflected in the men they themselves choose to date.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's like, well, when you tell men, just be yourself, just be honest, just like, be authentic, tell her how you feel, tell her what you want, set expectations. It's like, okay, I believe that all those things are the right things to do, objectively. You don't choose those guys. Like, you don't choose those guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard when you hear someone who you're asking them for advice because they are the example of someone that they would want to be with.
Right.
Give advice that they then don't actually act on. And what I hear is, oh, what you say is not significant. What you do is.
Yeah.
And when it comes to dating, it's like, ultimately, I want to be the person that you choose, not the person that you idolize theoretically.
Yeah.
And so what's hard is it's like the unspoken non-negotiables are actually what are filtering out these men and these women, because to say them out loud would to be admitting have some shallow preferences.
Yeah.
And I think preferences are fine. I think having preferences is not inherently wrong or negative. You should definitely not marry someone that you are unattracted to.
Right, absolutely.
So there's nuance. But by and large, it's like these unspoken non-negotiables of you have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain height, which is like one of the most real things that no one wants to talk about.
I just don't understand that concept.
The amount of money that you make, and not in money reflects your hardworking ethic and like ambition, but no, like legitimately, like the ability to provide a certain standard of life, your general talent. So like as an athlete or as a musician or as someone who is or someone who's really funny, like these things that to say them would be to kind of be like kind of shallow or whatever, but they are actually who you choose.
Yeah. And
you can tell me to my face that you want a man that loves Jesus. But what I see is you want a good looking, tall, masculine hunk who says he loves Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
And you are open to interpretation as to what that manifestation of following Jesus might look like. And I will also say that I am the biggest offender in this category, just like anyone else. I too find myself historically choosing women that I think are beautiful and fun and make me feel good. And then I try to rearrange their explanations around their pursuit of faith in a way that would justify it to all my friends and family. And so I can keep dating her.
Yeah.
So I also know this, but what's hard is at least I feel like I'm trying to engage organically. And like, I know that's bad. I'm trying, like, I don't want that to rule me. But some people are just kind of unwilling to even say that that's real and that's true. And I think that's what's been hard for me in the church talking about it. Because like, for example, my church does not facilitate singles events, period. We don't even talk about it. Which is like, I don't even know if I feel good about that or bad about that. Like, is it, should we be trying to get people married, or is trying to get people married that a product of idolizing marriage, right? And there's all these different schools of thought. But I do think that like, that is the thing that's at the barrier. That's kind of the barrier to entry for a lot of what people think.
Yeah.
And we don't celebrate singleness as its own thing. But then we also demonize people who are unhappy in their singleness as idol worshipers, which is also tough. But I want us to wrap up because it's been a good amount of time. But I just want to end with like, what is Jesus teaching you right now? Like, what do you find yourself talking about all the time in conversations?
Grace. I actually got it tattooed on my arm a few years ago. I'm so good at giving other people grace, and I don't give it to myself. And the last few years, it's just like, okay, Victoria, like, if your friend was in this position, what would you be doing? And why aren't you doing that for yourself? And it's like, okay. And I've realized that a lot of people experience it the other way, where they're so willing to give themselves grace, right? When they mess up, but they're so hard on other people. And when I had a friend say that, I was like, people feel that way? Like people like just immediately give themselves grace? Like, how? Teach me. Like, I want to be that person, but I want to be the person that I am to everyone else, to myself. I'm so hard on myself. And like, the Lord is like, okay, no, you've got to sit in this. Like, you have to give yourself grace, because whether it's something you did or something somebody else did to you, it's not your fault, right? Like, I have a lot of like, oh, they don't like me because I did this. They don't like, they responded this way because I did this. And if I would have said it this way, then like everything would have been fine. Everything's always my fault, which is such a wild way of thinking, right? Like, also like, how selfish. And I never really saw myself as a selfish person. Like, I'm not like, oh, everything I do has to be top of the line. Like, I need everything for me. But like, when you look at it that way, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, who are you to think that you have the control? That like, if you would have done something different, they would have reacted differently. And it's just like learning to sit in that grace for myself. It is not fun, but it's really freeing. And it's been like a really cool journey to see of like, okay, like if I'm going to give my friend grace for that, I need to give it to myself too. Because like, the Lord doesn't want me beating myself up. You know, like I shouldn't be hating on myself, right? Like, I need to treat myself the way that I treat the people that I love, because they would never treat me that way. And so like learning a whole new thought process. And he's just like held my hand through it. It's been so sweet.
Any specific scripture that you've held on to kind of in the midst of that? Not to put you on the spot.
I'm like, what haven't I held on to? No, not one that I can like really pinpoint. I do hold on to the fruits of the spirit a lot. Because I think that I like to think that I have a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like such a reminder of like, again, it's not about me. Like if I'm doing what the Lord is calling me to do, you're going to be seeing that fruit.
Yeah.
And I want to see that fruit in me. I mean, obviously I care if somebody else sees it, because then it really means that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But like to sit down and examine myself and be like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm doing well. And like, what fruit am I not producing?
Yeah.
And why am I not producing it? Like, what's holding me back? Am I holding myself back?
Yeah.
Because if I am, like, that's a problem. And then it's like, okay, what are you doing? And then it's like, okay, Victoria, give yourself grace again. Like, we're not going to be perfect. And we don't have all the answers, but like, we can figure it out.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've been wrestling with and learning is, it's really easy for me to believe that I'm useful to God. That, I have a set of skills and a desire to use them to be effective in ministry. And so it's really easy for me to believe that, like, God can use me for things.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to believe that just God likes me, that he loves me.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I wrestle with in that is that I tend to really focus on works. Like, I evaluate my own walk through how much am I doing for Jesus, how much of my schedule and my life and my finances goes towards the gospel ministry explicitly. Except for the problem is that the Bible, it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Jesus Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. What it doesn't say is, but the fruit of the Spirit is daily quiet time, church attendance weekly, leading a Bible study, leading a recovery ministry, evangelism 3 times a week. I hate that. Like, the fruit of the Spirit is not things that I do.
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming change of my heart. And that sucks because it's just a whole different shift. And it's also annoying that it's singular, the fruit.
Yeah.
So it's not like I can be good at joy and love, but not good at patience. It's like, I got kindness and gentleness down, but self-control, not my thing.
Right.
It's the singular fruit of the Spirit is all of those things. As in, as the fruit grows, all of those things come out.
Right.
And so I've really been in this season of like, okay, I need to stop focusing on my sin and behavior modification and doing all these good works, and more be like, okay, but am I loving people well?
Yeah.
Do I have peace in the midst of circumstances that I can't control? Do I have self-control? And you can measure some of those things in behavior, and some of those things can point you to like, oh yeah, I'm not active and I'm not relapsing in my addiction. That's self-control.
Yeah.
Right. I'm giving to others instead of to myself. Like, that's being good and faithful. I'm having compassion on the people around me, even that I don't like. I'm being gentle with them, and that's fruit. Like, those are all good things. So you can use them as helpful tools, but like ultimately it's like fruit comes within, like grows within and then comes out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I want all the stuff on the outside to tell me that what's going on the inside is right. And so, yeah, that's been like the journey for me recently. But yeah, dude, it's wild.
Yeah.
Well, Victoria, Cann,
Mm-hmm.
Not Victoria can't.
Correct.
Victoria can.
Mm-hmm.
I am very thankful that you showed up to do this. It is really clear that Jesus has control of your heart. It is really clear that you have a genuine desire for discipleship above self-promotion and self-gratification. And I just want you to know that in your conversations with people see that probably more than you know. If that's something that I can tell and glean from in an hour-long conversation, the people that get to spend a lot of time with you and see you live life, it's evident that that's true. And I believe that that's a really powerful witness. It's something that's much more compelling than merely like good teaching and good advice. But in your pursuit of obedience and surrender, and the fruit that it produces in your life, I think people are seeing that. And I think the heart of, well, I'm going to become the thing that I want, and I'm going to trust that Jesus can use that, I think is exactly what God calls us to do. Because it's not a consumer mindset, it's a sacrificial mindset. I'm going to participate, and I'm going to do the things that I don't know how to do, but that's what Moses did. And so, yeah, I'm really encouraged by you, and I'm really thankful that you shared what you shared. And hopefully we can continue to have more conversations that are life-giving and inspiring.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course.